So this is the first time I've tried to record a repair. This is the Xbox Series X HDMI port. So just start off fairly basic. Just once you've got it stripped down, just add some low melt solder into the existing joints. It just makes it a little bit easier to get off later on. I like to sort of roll the soldering iron back and forth just to make sure it goes all the way through, or most of the way through. I'll do the same on the other side just to see if we can get it all the way through, and cover up all the pins as well. You do not want those guys to be stuck down, or you're in for a tough time. And yeah, this will go around the other side of the legs, I think is what you call them, just to make sure that it's at least getting somewhat all the way through. It's mixing them with the existing stuff. It makes it just a little bit easier. I've done it without it in the past, but it just speeds the process up a wee bit. And then I like to put some solder mask on the little guys that usually hide around HDMI ports nowadays. I think the PlayStation is the one going really close, it's the best to cover that up. Just about UV solder mask stuff. Then you just want to heat it up with your heat gun. The whole job is made so much easier if you've got decent tools. If you've not got that great a soldering iron and not that great of a heat gun, it's just going to be so much harder. I usually start from the top, just to get that side of the board heated up a little bit, and then I'll move it to the bottom. In the video here, I'm wiggling it back and forth, but you don't really want to do that. I was just trying to figure out how to get it off while also keeping the camera in a good angle. But generally it should just pop right off once it's ready to. So you can give it small wiggles just to see how we're doing as it goes along. But generally you don't want to wiggle it, and it should just come right up like that. And then you just got to clean up all the old solder, get your wick, soldering wick, braid, I can't remember what you call it. And then again, I like to sort of roll it back and forward. I used to use horribly cheap wick, and it just didn't work very well. It would break off inside the hole and things, so make sure you get some decent stuff. It should come right out. It's best to get this done while the board is still quite hot from the hot air gun. It'll make it so much easier. You'll sometimes have to go around to the back side of the board again and do it from that side. And these little, I don't know what you call them, it just helps to hold it on. At the bottom there, they're quite difficult to do just because they suck up heat. The board sucks up the heat and it's quite difficult, so you don't have to be perfect, but you just leave a little bit on and just get them as best I can do. And then you just want to tin the pads again. And then I usually give everything a good clean before I do anything else. Yeah, that was these little things down here, so they're a bit awkward. It's easier if you've got three hands, you can heat it up with the heat gun and do the soldering iron at the same time. But if I can get like a little bit of solder on them, I'm pretty sure it will just move where it needs to move when you're heating it up later. And then I added a little bit of flux to the board, and then I also added it to the pins on the actual HDMI port. And then you want to be heating from the bottom long before you've put the HDMI port on, so that the board's hot and that the solder's melted as best as it can do. And then when you sit the port down on top, it should make a connection. You might need to heat a bit longer. Sometimes I need to go over the pins with a soldering iron just to make sure they're all connected, but as long as you don't get any wiggle when you touch them with a tweezer, then you're generally good to go. And then it's just filling in the pegs. I'd like to do it a little bit at a time, just make sure that it's heated up enough and the solder's going all the way through. Sometimes you can get it where there's like a gap in the middle, and then if the board heats up when they're playing games later, it'll much more likely to pop off if they move it later on. Just keep adding little bits at a time and it should all go through. And then I usually like to double check on our end, because it sometimes just goes all the way through and it doesn't look like it's got a full connection, so I'll usually go over the top of that again with the hot air gun, sometimes with the soldering iron, and just make sure that it's all connected up.